Allan,
Hey, Ken.
good to see you again.
Good seeing you.
We're starting off this lecture tour, and we thought that maybe one of our first stops would be Tommy Rockers on a Wednesday night. So tell everyone who's watching what happens on Tommy Rockers on a Wednesday night in Las Vegas.
Gary Darwin, over 50 years ago, started this Wednesday night magic club. He originally had a kids club over Fabulous Magic, and that started at 4. Then he'd go out to eat, and then he'd come over, and at that time it was at a bar in Vegas called the Colonial House. He'd get there about 8, 9 o'clock.
Cool.
And then we'd have the evening magic club. Back in those days, Siegfried would always come. He never missed. He was here every week.
Yeah, I heard that there were a ton of very well-respected magicians, I mean yourself included obviously, who frequented the club.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Siegfried,
Roy didn't often come, but Siegfried always would come. Lance would come quite often.
Nice.
And Lance, of course, still comes every now and then.
Nice.
We had a little bigger crowd back then. Some nights we have 10, 15. Some nights we'll have 25, 30
Right.
here. But back then, a lot of times we'd have 60, 100 people would come.
Right. So you said when Gary was still alive, I had the good fortune of moving to Las Vegas before Gary passed away, but his death was obviously a tragedy. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And we had a nice ceremony, I remember.
Yep, we sure did. So, like I said, Gary started this club 50-some years ago. I think he passed away about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, so it wasn't that long.
Yeah.
And like I said, he was just real generous with his time and his library, and had a lot of nice proteges that he created over the years that are working performers right now.
And Gary and Lance Burton were very close, is that right?
Yeah, they were buddies. That's correct, yeah.
Nice.
Gary had this unbelievable library. He loved books.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it was just amazing.
What's happening with the library?
Well, I believe Lance has the library now, and I don't know what he's going to do with it. I hope he turns it into a museum, because the library is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's well worth over $1 million.
Jeez.
It's just, yeah. He had books everywhere. Even you go in the bathroom in this house, it was just all bookshelves and books. A little commode. Books in the kitchen cupboard, everywhere. Yeah.
One thing about Gary, I've just never noticed. I've never seen anyone, or I mean, maybe I have. I don't know, but he resonated magic. He just constantly wanted to talk about magic.
Yep.
As soon as I walk in here, no matter who I walk in with, even if he's in his wheelchair or whatever, he immediately is trying to teach them a magic trick.
That's right. Yep.
I loved that about him.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
So as far as I know now, you have taken over the club.
So I
Or the
guess,
meeting.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of the director right now, and like I said, we hope to keep it going. And so if you're ever in Vegas, it's every Wednesday night.
Great.
And it starts about 9 o'clock.
Great. So you heard it here. Las Vegas,
Right.
Tommy Rockers, Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock, the Gary Darwin Magic Meetup.
That's right.
Perfect. Before we wrap up, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your career, where you started in magic?
Sure. So I got started by seeing a full evening show by Dr. Allan Ackerman when I was 9 years old.
Tarbell.
Yeah.
The Tarbell.
The Tarbell. And was really mesmerized by the show.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, John Rockenbaumer was in the audience too. Same show.
Shout out to John Rockenbaumer. Hey, John.
So,
He's in the audience?
Yeah, he was in the show, in the audience too. So both of us were in that show. And anyway, I went home and I was raving about the show to my dad, and he said, you know what? Doc Tarbell's wife was my school teacher when I was growing up in grade school. I know that. Let me give him a call. And so he called, and we got invited over to dinner, and he taught me Out of This World when I was 9 years old. That was my first card trick I ever learned. And then he passed away shortly after. He also had a son named Gene, and he actually started a magic club at a local YMCA, and I signed up for that. I studied under him for about 4 years. So that's how I got started. And then somewhere around 15 years old, magician by the name of Jim Kanaga showed me Brother John Hammond's Macro, and it changed my life. I couldn't believe how clever it was and how amazing it was, and I just really started to emphasize on close-up magic. And I got my first copy of Erdnase when I was 15, and I really started to study that. I really started to work hard on a bottom deal, and I invented my own technique to do a Greek bottom deal. That's where you're dealing bottom second from the bottom. And then Marlowe heard about it, and he called me up and said he'd like to see me do this move. He would like to learn it, so I taught it to Marlowe. And he just took me under his wing. I got to study under Ed for 3 years. I spent every Saturday with him. Les Rockenbaum was in town then.
And he was also there?
Now he worked for the airlines. I think it was Eastern Airlines. I might have that wrong. He was stationed in New Orleans, but he would, since he'd get free airline passes, he would fly in once a month or something. And he was working on the Hierophant magazine at the time. And
yes.
Ed and him would do that. So I didn't get Ed that weekend when John was in town. But the rest of the time...
Wait, so did Ed always just do one-on-one?
No, there was a little group of us. So Dick Kester, Ross Johnson, the mentalist, sometimes would show up. Steve Drawn would show up. Dave Solomon was in the service, but then I got drafted. So I was with Ed for 3 years.
Okay, yeah.
And then I got drafted in '69 and left Vegas at the end of '69, December of '69. And Dave Solomon had just gotten back, so he kind of took my place at the table.
Really?
Yeah. And then Simon Aronson joined the group. Steve Drawn was already in the group. There was a really great close-up magician in Chicago by the name of Dick Kester. He was in the group. And he passed away back about 1980. But anyway, so that's how I got going.
Wow. So it starts with Tarbell.
Right, yeah.
Then a Hammond inspiration, and then Marlowe.
Then Marlowe, yeah. And of course, Ed's still the biggest influence in my life. He's still today.
Yeah.
I'm always still working on plots he showed me and ideas he showed me 50 years later. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
All right,
People
Ken.
will definitely stop by Wednesday nights at Tommy Rockers.
Right.
Starting at 9.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock for the Gary Darwin Magic Meetup, which is still going strong. All right?
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.